What's up YouTube? Now today I'm doing the strip down of the Mills grenade. This is one of the most iconic designs in the history of grenades really. This is the one that most people would recognise as being a typical hand grenade. Now, this is the First World War No. 5 Mills grenade and consists of pull pin, lever or spoon, and then plunger. There's a spring in the bottom of there. There's also a centre column that runs in the inside, which I'll show you shortly. There's a base plug, and there's also a filling plug. Now the spring in these Mills grenades are actually really powerful. They do pack quite a punch, and it really would force the plunger down with quite a thrust behind it. Okay, now obviously the pull pin ring on this one is reproduction. I put that there, and the pin I imagine will be reproduction. But the lever, body, and all the other parts, base plug, filling plug, plunger, spring, centre column, they're all original. Obviously the paintwork on the front, which is the 3 X's to say it's high explosive, that is reproduction paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull the pin out the back. It's a really basic and simple design. The holes for the pin are built into the steel cast, and then you simply have this steel spoon or lever, whichever you want to call it, which is just curved around the grenade. Now you can see the spring action there, so I'm just going to let go. I'm going to focus on the plunger, and that's that. Now the lever, pretty simple. You can obviously see it's a relic. It's got a hole in the bottom of it there, and the edges are all rusty. You can see the end, which has got a pin through it, which allows it to pivot in the actual grenade cast. The pivot are actually indented on the side. The lever just slots in there, and that allows it to pivot. It's quite a basic design, but very effective. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take the filling plug out. This is a brass filling plug. This is where you would fill the gunpowder once you have put the whole grenade insides in and set the fuse and detonator. That's when you would put the charge in. This charge would basically be gunpowder. How do we know it's gunpowder? Well, it's got shrapnel grooves. Gunpowder wasn't actually that explosive, no matter how many people think it is explosive, but it's not actually that powerful. So shrapnel grooves are there to help it break the steel even more, and also to help it break the steel evenly. Okay, now we've got the base plug. This is the No. 5 base plug for the No. 5 grenade. We'll go into the insides shortly. Okay, we've got the brass base plug. It's dated 1916, and that's February 1916. And it also has No. 5 Mark 1, which you can just about see in there. And it also has the maker's mark, which is CAN. Okay, now on to the insides. If I just use the penknife to get the spring out. We have the plunger and the spring. Now this is the bit that you could see sticking through the neck of the grenade. That's the bit that is gripped by the lever. You also notice the lever has a groove there, so it would grip, groove, so it would just slot nicely in and also hold the lever up. Yep, this would have had a spike. You can just see the remains of it here, if the camera will focus. You can just see the remains of the spike there. It is worn off the other side due to the age of it really, and that would have been the bit that hit the detonator that would have been in the centre tube. Then we have the centre tube itself, which can be quite difficult to get out at times. This time it's looking like it's going to be nice and simple to get out, hopefully. Yeah, it's just unscrews. Now this is quite a simple design as well. It's 2 brass tubes. One of them has got the top in and one of them is hollow. This is where the spring would sit. The spring would sit in there, and the plunger would obviously sit in the top as well. That is a very good design because it keeps the plunger at a targeted area, because the plunger is not going to be able to vary away. It's going to go straight down to the bottom of that tube where the detonator would be, and then a fuse would then lead from the detonator to the gain, and the gain would sit in here. Now a gain is basically a piece of brass that's hollow, filled with high explosives, and once it is ignited it will explode quite powerfully, and then fracture this brass tube here. Now once this brass tube here would be fractured by the explosion from the gain, it would set off the main charge of the grenade, which would be inside here, obviously on the outside of this brass centre tube. This would then explode the grenade and cause lots of shrapnel. Now, of course, the Mills grenade is a defensive grenade, so you can't throw it far enough to get away from the shrapnel, so you would have to throw this from in cover, otherwise the shrapnel would get you. So what does a dummy detonator look like, or what does a detonator look like? This is a dummy detonator, and it's got an inert rotor on the side of it, which you can see there, if it will focus on it, just to show that it's not real. It's basically an alloy composite. That would be the striker point on the bottom. This piece of string would be a fuse, and then obviously you've got the gain. Gain sits in there, and obviously the striker point would sit in there, when the piece of string would just tuck in nicely as the fuse. The idea being that the plunger would go down here, strike the point which is in the bottom, ignite the fuse, which would ignite the gain, which would explode this tube. Obviously it didn't work in this model, which is quite usual. They weren't the most reliable of grenades, but if it had have gone off we wouldn't be sitting here with it now, so it's quite good that it didn't go off. And those are all the components from a Mills grenade. Obviously in the background you've got a pineapple grenade and a WW1 German Kz14 artillery fuse. And that is it for this video, so thanks for watching.